Over the last month or so, I've been playing a lot of REDCON. This was not something I was planning on beforehand, but when I sat down to play XCOM UFO Defense for a video, I realized I didn't feel like it. And through a complex chain of events, this game just landed on my lap out of nowhere. As I sat down for my third multi-hour REDCON sesh, staring blankly at my computer screen, I realized, wow, maybe I should get off my fat ass to do something productive like sitting down on my fat ass and wasting more time making a video about REDCON. REDCON is a tactical artillery combat game where you control a fortress full of guns and bombard your enemies from a distance, in a combat system that functions very similarly to FTL. It takes place an ambiguous amount of time in the future, in an alternate world where World War I never ended. The entire planet has been given the Aral Sea treatment, and is coated in more unexploded ordnance than all of Eastern Europe combined. But through the use of large fortresses filled with guns and relentless artillery warfare, all nations have been united under the rule of the Empire State, led by this fat guy named Fuhrer Grimm. All nations except one, the rogue nation of Crux, led by the charismatic, traitorous, formerly General of the Empire State, Kranz. With his endless legions and vast stocks of weapons, Kranz wages war against the Empire, shells cities, and makes peace impossible. You play as an artillery commander, who during the tutorial fights off a Crux incursion and prevents the assassination of the Fuhrer by protecting the dam above the city of Pompeii where he was gambling. Following this act of heroism, you and your advisor Bella are promoted and reassigned to a large offensive penetrating directly into the Crux heartland, under the close observation of the Fuhrer himself. As soon as you boot up the game and see the Memories 1995 canon, it's clear that this is a Hexage game. It has the exact same main menu interface as all the others. There's quite a bit lacking behind the scenes in this game. It's very clear that REDCON was a mobile game first, and while there are no significant mechanical issues from the port, a lot of features essential to PC games that probably should have been at least basically implemented have not been. There are no graphics settings, there's no way to turn off full screen. There is no level select. The only way to replay anything in the campaign is to reset the whole thing back to day one from the settings menu. This made recording a bit difficult, but it wasn't a deal breaker. But there really was no attempt made at all to adapt the game to PC besides the addition of some keyboard shortcuts. As soon as you press start, you enter a brief tutorial and then you are right into the game. Combat is pretty fun. You have a concrete fort full of guns, soldiers, and utility modules, and you have to blast an enemy fort hundreds of miles away. They really do emphasize just how far away from the other forts you are too. There's a big split in the middle of the screen, and the environment of the enemy's fort side looks totally different. It's probably not even the same time of day. The act of firing your intercontinental ballistic hunks of hot lead starts off a little bit mindless, but the first few missions play themselves. There's a lot of complication behind the scenes though. First, you aim your cannon at an important target revealed enough to be reliably hit due to accuracy. Then your cannon will automatically fire once its cooldown is complete. If you man the vehicle by stationing a soldier in its room, it will likely cool down fast. But all the weapons currently reloading consume ammunition per second, and if you are consuming more than you produce, reload speed will slow down massively. So just make sure you aren't using too many specialty shells. But using your weapons and modules consume power, and if your generator gets taken out or you get hit by a power leeching EMP, then your weapon will turn off. So just take out enemy EMPs and you'll be fine. Once the shell has been fired, you will hit your enemy. But they might have defensive turrets like flat cannons that can easily shoot down all of your shells. If your shell gets past all those tribulations, then you will still have a chance to miss the shot based on your weapon's accuracy and how exposed the target module is. While it can be easy to just aim your cannons and let them automatically fire on their own, you will be taking shots yourself. Micromanaging your troops is essential to increase the efficiency of utilities by manning defensive turrets and reading from fire control systems to boost your weapon's accuracy. Troops can man weapons to boost their overall performance also. Your soldiers can even board the enemy fortress with airships, missile-powered landing pods, or covert infiltration. Their most important purpose though, like in FTL, is to repair modules. If you aren't sending your troops around 24/7 to patch up your damaged modules, you're gonna lose pretty fast when they all fail and those Crux scumbags can shoot twice as many shots as you at a time. There is a bit of strategy to how you smash the enemy base to pieces. You'll want to focus fire on important modules like the defense controller, power generators, and powerful enemy weapons. While damaged modules can still function perfectly, though they cannot be manned, if a module is reduced all the way down to 0 health, it will be destroyed and cannot begin functioning again, until it's repaired all the way back to 100% health. So a well-timed volley can take a pesky nuclear reactor or pain-in-the-ass laser projector out of the equation for the rest of the mission. provided you can keep the side of the wreck suppressed so they can't repair it. Defensive countermeasures can also intercept your projectiles in midair, meaning you may need to time volleys for when they are reloading, or fire all your weapons at once to overwhelm them. Further strategy can come from the use of status effects and specialty ammunition. Mortars can use shrapnel rounds that will absolutely eviscerate soldiers and probably kill any below full health. But as they come from mortars, they are slow and can be avoided, making them mostly useful in conjunction with stun effects, or to suppress a module under repair. Neurotoxin gas can come from fancy cannon ammo or dedicated missiles or ICBMs, and will deal massive damage over time to any soldier in a room full of it, but does generally offer ample time to escape unless its method of delivery has a stun effect. Fire is a personal favorite of mine, as while fires can be quickly put out by a few guys, when the enemy begins to suffer staff shortages and can't spare anyone to put them out, fires can quickly run rampant and take over the whole structure on their own. There are also flashbang rounds that can stun troops for a long time, but these are mostly only useful as a way to trap them and combo with one of the other more lethal effects. Combat feels great when you're winning. Every time you splatter one of those stupid Crux troops all over the walls, or destroy an important module, it feels satisfying to pull off. And the sound design and graphics assist with this. That splatter when you blow up a dude is stuck in my mind and instantly releases dopamine. Battles are such tugs of war though that it feels like they get decided very easily. Oftentimes losing a single crew member, or having an important module or two destroyed is all that it takes to put you on a losing spiral. It feels pathetic and frustrating though, because you won't be finished off immediately. You'll probably be able to keep kicking for 5 or more minutes until you finally take enough structural damage to properly lose. It will simply just become almost impossible to win once you have suffered any disadvantage. This isn't always the case, but towards the mid-late game there's a long stretch of absolutely brutal levels that will kick you while you're down repeatedly, especially if you didn't have the best setup and modules to counter their gimmicks. At the end of every mission you get some experience and credits, which are important for the second half of the game, design. After the tutorial ends, the missions where you are forced to use a pre-made fortress layout become much more sparse, and you are granted a whole fortress to assemble as you please. You gain new fortresses after story events, and each one has a layout of utility slots, weapon slots, and hybrid slots that you can fit either inside of, along with defense slots for your countermeasures. Each fortress also offers different layouts with bonuses like extra energy, more defense slots, more weapon slots, or more manpower. Gaining experience will level you up and unlock new weapons and utilities to fill these slots, which must be bought with credits. You do definitely have a lot of options to choose from. Cannons of all different shapes and sizes, from the precision sniper cannon that almost always has 100% accuracy hitting any part of the enemy base, no matter how deep or hidden, to the gigantic Memories 1995 reference Omega Capital Destroyer. Sure, this beast deals tons of damage from just its normal shells, but my favorite use for it is to use neurotoxin rounds that can fill half the base with toxic gas, and inflict a minor Chinese conflict's worth of casualties. There are also EMP cannons that can leech power and shut down modules and weapons, but in my opinion they just suck. I think they only serve as an annoyance. Also, there are lasers with perfect accuracy that bypass shields and start fires. And don't forget about missiles that get bullied by any defenses but deal massive damage. They come in standard and chode size. Some utilities stand out too. You can buy a scrambler that uses the power of lean to deflect all incoming projectiles, or a kinetic shield to block bullets. The intelligence agency may not be that good, but it is a guilty pleasure of mine to steal a random soldier every minute or so from the enemy as some tactical trolling. Boarding is also an option if you're into that sort of thing. You can gear up your brave souls with some weapons from the armory and send them in the world's flimsiest airship to destroy the enemy from the inside. To be honest, boarding may be cool, but it's more effort than it's worth most of the time. But hey, if you really want to enter another man's fortress, I can understand the appeal. All of this allows you to tailor your whole fortress around any playstyle you want, which is impressive. You really do need to tailor it around one playstyle though. Even the biggest fortresses are still quite small, and there isn't a lot of room to have more than one gimmick each. So you're going to need to focus on one aspect, like boarding, defense, firepower, or something else. Also, the game does not give you very much money at all. It is extremely stingy, which I suppose encourages replaying the campaign, as you won't be able to get everything every time. But this becomes a serious issue when you get to levels that have a designed counter to them, like EMPs, boarding, sniper cannons, or something else. And if you are out of money and don't already have what you need, you have to just restart, which is so damn annoying. This ultimately discourages you from ever specializing in anything, and buying a wider variety of stuff instead of upgrading the things you like, since not every strategy is viable for every level. You can always take the coward's way out and play easy mode, which allows you to place any module you've unlocked for free, along with automatically upgrading them to the highest upgrade tier available. but it's still not a good look if a system is implemented so poorly that the only way to have a less frustrating experience is to turn off the whole key aspect of the game. REDCON's design is tight as hell, everything in the game is implemented with precise intent and it feels polished. I don't remember a single bug or glitch from my whole time playing. It was just crisp. Every annoyance I encountered was intentionally designed for better or worse, and I would expect nothing less from a Hexage game. The true tragedy of REDCON is that my only problems come from what isn't in the game, not what is, and these disappointments are still a very major complaint. First of all, there's nothing but the campaign, which while I couldn't call it short, will always be somewhat limiting by design as there are only a few pre-made encounters. The core of the game is so refined it feels genuinely wasteful that the actual scope of the game is so arbitrarily limited. Imagine how much improvement would come from a roguelike endless mode, for example, where you fight randomly generated enemy forts, or multiplayer mode to gas and napalm your friends. Even a level select or some kind of non-linear campaign progression would add so much. This lack extends to other features as well, like why can't you group weapons together to fire them all at once when on hold fire mode? Actually, that feels like such an essential feature for this type of game, but as it is, if you want to have any kind of coordination, you need to pause and manually click the fire button for every single weapon you want to use in your volley. I'll try not to trash talk the campaign too much though, it gets the job done. It isn't overly short and offers quite a few unique scenarios. What I really appreciate is how they let you unlock all the weapons relatively early. I always hate when linear games only give you access to the cool stuff right before the end. Like, thanks for the super ultra power sword or whatever, but it's not that cool if you can only use it on the final boss. I'm looking at you, Library of Ruina. Now go to the corner and think about what you've done. At least here you have 20 or so missions to use your Omega Capital Destroyer and ICBMs. Now, all that's left to do is talk about the story. Skip to this timestamp if you don't want spoilers for a mobile app game. While your character is silent and never offers any commentary, it becomes pretty clear that the Führer isn't really a good guy. Towards the beginning of the offensive, he orders various extremely petty and pointless attacks, like destroying a hospital Israel style with poison gas, and torching a whole city with lasers. It becomes pretty clear the entire setup of the game that you read was complete propaganda, as besides the more and more justified seeming assassination attempt, Kranz has done nothing but defend his country against your onslaught. You even see your advisor telling a soldier that stories of actions you clearly just committed yourself, like the hospital gassing and city burning, were just propaganda. Your character remains silent, so you're just playing as the bad guys conquering the good guys, right? That could be a fun premise. As the war goes on and you topple more strongholds, a few more worming inconsistencies start to pop up. Kranz keeps getting access to extremely recent prototypes of Empire State weapons, and the Führer seems to avoid the subject whenever it's mentioned. In fact, his nation being annihilated by an invasion, on the brink of destruction, is somehow receiving massive shipments of brand new guns, which even Kranz brings up to taunt you. Then, once you get towards the end of your campaign, the Führer starts making some creepy advances towards your advisor, and talking to you in a disconcerting way, like you might soon be out of the picture. Once you reach Kranz and blast his fortress to pieces, instead of your victory being celebrated, the Führer tells you that you have become a traitor to the state. The entire war was a sham to keep the population in line, and the Empire State has been supplying Crux with weapons to prevent them from ever truly losing. Now that you have killed their leader, he has made you the replacement, and defected you against your will, with your advisor leaving to serve him, and you becoming the new general of Crux. The game ends with you facing a gauntlet of the Führer's generals, and winning. And the fat fuck doesn't even care, he wanted you to kill them, it's just funny to him. This just brings the game back to the status quo it started with at the beginning, with the Empire result ending in failure, according to plan, and you as the new Kranz. As if on cue, the Führer takes your former advisor to gamble at Pompeii, the city with the dam that you saved at the beginning. After some silence, Bella speaks directly to you for the first time since you were exiled, and tells you that the Führer is in position, wishing you good luck. She really was loyal to you all along. A lot is left ambiguous. Was Kranz an Empire general forced into the role of the fake enemy like you? He seems awfully enthusiastic and patriotic for someone forced into service. But the whole conflict with Crux's timescale is completely unknown. It could have gone on for hundreds of years, way longer than his lifetime. And will the attack on the dam succeed the second time with you in command? Or was it a trap to put another general through the same cycle you entered at the beginning? With you as the Kranz attacking the dam only to be stopped by another up-and-comer who will lead an offensive, kill you, and take your place all over again, starting the cycle anew. You are left with this end screen though. As long as you serve faithfully, the war never ends, which seems pretty bleak. Consider this though, the only other scene like this in the game is the opening, and the text there is clearly quite biased, so it could be assumed that this writing comes from the official perspective of the Empire State. And sure, the Führer probably thinks that you will serve faithfully and the war will never end. But what we see in the picture is you, overlooking a dam, with a huge cannon behind you, about to finish what Kran started? I guess that could actually just be some random guy and completely irrelevant, but I do like to cope as hard as possible for happy endings. In conclusion, REDCON is a great game with its high quality matched only by its amount of missed potential. The story is creative and enjoyable, I like the characters a lot, gameplay is fun like FTL but casual and it doesn't make you restart every time you lose. The design system makes the game feel open and replayable despite the rigid campaign, and the presentation is extremely solid. Also, I should mention the music. It's all by Kubatko. They compose most Hexage game music, and this is probably my favorite soundtrack of all of them. There are all kinds of moods in this one. Ominous World War I ambience, relaxing World War I ambience, intense combat music, and even surprisingly sad and non-intense combat music. This would be the part where I would give a number score if I did that, but I don't. You should play REDCON, and don't prevent Krans from destroying the dam. Worst mistake of my life. Adolf Steal Your Girl is gonna betray you, watch out!